Deltarune's Titans are unlike anything we've seen in the franchise until now. Beings of ultimate evil made manifest. Sure, we've had things like Omega Flowey and Azrael's god of hyperdeath form, but they aren't quite the elder evil cosmic horror that the Titans are. Are these the true villains of the franchise? The unseen hand behind the scenes, drawing forth the darkness deep within the hearts of men and monsters. It's time for a deep analysis on these gargantuan creatures, to see how much we can learn about them before our final confrontation with them in Deltarune's remaining chapters. Spawned through the creation of a dark fountain within the dark world, it seems as if Titans are the darkness within darkness itself. This is our first clue as to what the Titans truly are. Within Hometown, whenever a dark fountain is opened, we see it animate otherwise lifeless objects, giving them personalities based on their experiences as an object. There's no better example of this than Tenor, our emotionally complex television set, desperate for one last hurrah. So what happens when you give darkness itself a personality? Darkness is often associated with a fear of the unknown, that primordial sensation, the product of countless years of evolution. Our ancestors knew going out into the night, surrounded by wild predators, probably wasn't the smartest idea. Now imagine that same looming darkness, but sentient. All those imagined fears, all the potentially terrible things that could happen in the middle of the night, now amalgamated into a single body, alive and very much eager to see you dead. It's quickly becoming obvious why Deltarune's Titans are so terrifying, and we're only just getting started. The Titans, beings of prophecy and legend, as described by Rousey. They don't exactly seem like something we'd encounter as early as the end of Chapter 4, though Deltarune's main antagonist, the Roaring Knight, has no plans of conveniently waiting until the end of the game to confront us with them. From what we see during the recounting of the prophecy, their bodies are vague and abstract, and are even reminiscent of the Roaring Knight themselves. They're also comparable to Azrael's god of hyperdeath form, which is an observation we should remember for later. After all, we're trying to get to the bottom of just what exactly these things are. Perhaps some sort of god, demon, or angel? Or are they just simply Titans? Swaddled in darkness with the wings of an angel, it seems Chris and friends may be facing deity-like beings. I wouldn't rate their odds if only a certain red soul wasn't known for defeating godly enemies in the past. Let's take a look at the tower that rises when the Roaring Knight attempts to bring forth a Titan. Slowly shedding its rocky shell, we see churning darkness within. Does it look familiar to you? We've seen this texture before, at the very beginning of the game. As we're prompted to create a vessel by a mysterious voice, we linger within dark nothingness. Just where are we as this is taking place? Well, if we're going with the idea that this is the dark side of a dark world, it seems likely we've literally been swallowed by darkness itself. This could be the realm of the last dark world we'll visit, as I speculated in my short video titled, "What will Deltarune's final dark world be?" Could it be that the Titans are so large that they themselves are dark worlds, made manifest, given a body to wreak havoc upon lightness and darkness alike? This may very well be the same darkness Gaster once witnessed in Undertale, Asgore's former royal scientist. Describing something that is darker yet darker, I can imagine nothing that is darker than darkness itself than Deltarune's Titans. That means they're a force that's present in both games. Even though we never saw one in Undertale, maybe we were simply fortunate. With the Roaring Knight so eager to tear open dark fountains in Deltarune, an encounter with one of these things was all but inevitable. Something to keep in mind is that the tower is the one reference we really have for the Titan's size. During the boss battle with them, we only fight their heads and shoulders, and even then they dwarf us completely. That must mean their body is truly colossal, and likely the size of the tower we scale with no small difficulty. As mentioned in Chapter 2, all will fall into chaos when the fountains fill the sky. These Titans tower above not just mountains but the clouds themselves, making them by far the single largest entity we've ever seen in both Undertale and Deltarune. Can you imagine how devastating something like this would be unleashed upon the light world? The sense of urgency has intensified like never before, as I feel just one Titan would be more than enough to trample Mount Ebott and Hometown alike. The stakes are higher than they've ever been before, and Chapter 4 really is a wake-up call to the true threat of what we face. It's impressive that Chris, Rousey and Susie are able to stand up to one at all, but they are potentially heroes of legend at the end of the day. We finally reached the top of the tower, only to be met with a giant eye. This thing is watching us, fully conscious of our actions. As I mentioned earlier, Titans are like the living embodiment of darkness, fully aware, seeking to inspire fear and dread wherever they exist. It's as if evil itself were made sentient. Finally, atop countless shattered bookshelves, we come face to face with darkness itself, literally. Chapter 4's final fight has us battling against the upper body of a Titan, staring down its twisted void of a face. Let's take a look at the Titan's sprite, as that alone tells us a lot about what these things really are. As I mentioned in my original short video about the topic, they resemble some sort of hybrid fusion between a demon and angel, the dark form of a nightmarish giant, head topped with twisted horns, along with the ivory white wings of an angel. Such a strange paradox is surely nothing to gloss over, as while Titans may be beings of pure darkness, why do they have the wings of something we'd associate with nobility and purity? Darkness cannot exist without light, and thus the wings may be a perversion of this idea. Like how in Undertale, an angel who will make the underground go empty is described in prophecy. Titans could be perceived as angels of a kind, but rather than saving monsters and humankind from the roaring, they'll be the ones splitting the earth itself and bringing about the apocalypse. The Titan's body is extremely abstract, and once more, I'd like to make some comparisons. Attacking us with two giant sets of claws, some of the Titan's attacks are reminiscent in appearance to those the Roaring Knight uses. Now, it probably doesn't come as too much of a surprise that some similarities exist between these two, what with the Roaring Knight quite literally being the harbinger to the arrival of the Titans. However, it's at least confirmation that the two are drawing their powers from the same place, that being the nightmarish living darkness I described earlier. Given the likelihood that the Roaring Knight is one of the Holiday family, this is proof that the darkness of the Titans can infect other living things, even Lightners. As if these things weren't intimidating enough by themselves, now we have to contend with the fact that they can turn and corrupt our allies against us. Another observation I made in my original short is that one of its attacks resembles human fetuses. This is a little freaky to say the least. I have two predictions as to why, however, as we've established that the Titans may be aspects of primordial fear. They may also be responsible for the fear that drove humans against monsters in Undertale. After all, it was made clear that this was a response to fear of the monster's potential rather than anything they'd actually done. Therefore, something reminiscent of humans may be a subtle hint as to the terrible influence these creatures wield over the human mind. My other observation is that it's no doubt a reference to Earthbound. The final boss of the game, Gygus, becomes a distorted series of faces as it screams out in anguish. The negative space very clearly resembles a fetus, imagery that's been long speculated on, that could have meaning or just be there to freak us out. Earthbound was a major inspiration for Undertale, and by extension Deltarune, and so the final incomprehensible threat of the game having some similarity to Gygus, also an unknowable evil, makes perfect sense. After defeating the Titan, the Red Soul erupts with light, banishing it back to the darkness. Was this strange entity ever even real? Or is it just the product of twisted imagination, drawn forth from our deepest fears? A lot of Deltarune could just be the product of an overactive imagination, and there's few things we can be so creative about as scaring ourselves. I do somehow doubt, however, that the game will wrap up with the phrase, "it was all a dream," though there's something to be said for how the Titan could be described as fear manifest. As something as intangible as a primordial emotion come to life, have we any hope of defeating them? Well, how else do you overcome fear? Facing it, confronting it, dispelling the darkness with light. If the Titans are reliant on exploiting our emotions, then we'll just need to embody positive aspects in defiance. Emotions like hope, bravery and perseverance. See where I'm going with this? In Undertale, the 6 coloured souls that came before us all represented positive emotions and traits. They also came to our aid in the final battle. Perhaps once again these souls will manifest when we need them most, helping us defeat this evil from the bottom of the void itself. I hope you enjoyed this deep analysis on the Titans of Deltarune. What do you think? Will we encounter more of these colossal enemies, or was that the last of them in Chapter 4? Yeah, I'm veering towards the former personally. I've no doubt things won't be resolved exactly how they were in Undertale, but I do expect there will be some parallels. We'll need all the help we can get against such a powerful foe. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.